here. The topic for today is finding balance and clarity Wall Street Jesus style. So this is a continuation of a conversation that Lucci and I had last week. That's really about kind of anchoring yourself and grounding yourself both on a day-to-day basis when you're actually trading. So how are you making your trading decisions? How are you basing those decisions on sources of information and things that you feel that give you confidence rather than just sort of getting pulled into all the noise. And then outside of that, how are you basically keeping your shit together psychologically in the face of you know constant challenges that trading brings and the emotional roller coaster that trading brings with it. So Jesus, how long have you been trading for to start out? I was just going to say 20 years, but like how long have you been doing this for?
I mean, real, like legitimately doing this, I would say I started with real money, like real trading, and at the same time, trading client money is probably from like 1998 on.
Okay. All
Prior
right.
to
So yeah.
that, yeah, give maybe a year or two prior to that where I would call it, I guess, fooling around. But from like 98 is when I really started to take a little more of a serious approach. Regarding the game. And as you know, at the same time, and I think it would quicken the learning curve a bit, wasn't just trading for myself, I was trading client money as well.
Right.
So it was a big responsibility. But I think all in all, the experience, I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, and that's a whole different psychological challenge, brings on a whole different layer of things that we'll
Yeah.
probably talk about in some other context. But I mean, like let's start with just kind of day to day in a trade right now for you. There is so much noise, there's so much chaos constantly going on, not only just with the markets themselves and everything that you're watching in a given time, movements happening, but also, you're in the steam room. I don't know if how often you're really going on Twitter during the day, but there's just so much noise around, right?
So
And we
much
hear from
noise.
people all the time talking about like how do you block that out? How do you keep yourself focused, and how do you keep your decision making grounded in something where you feel like you're connected into the right thing, that you're making decisions based on the right inputs. So where do you start when you're sitting there and looking at your screens and moving towards making a trade? Like how do you anchor yourself?
Yeah, it's funny because we discussed this topic with Steamroom members on a recent, not recent, probably a month ago now, or maybe a little longer than that, on the Saturday webinar. It wasn't a scheduled topic, but it was something I noticed, and I notice every day, but I really, really started to notice in the Steam Room. And I think it became more obvious because I'll give you an example. We had that big market drawdown at the end of last year.
Right.
And it was so easy to get caught up in the negativity, the noise. You know what I mean? It wasn't just I had to block it out for one day. It was ongoing every single day. You'd come in, who was shorting, who was making money shorting, the world was coming to an end.
Right.
Just negative headlining after everywhere you turned, Charlie, there was
Right.
negativity, right? You turned on the TV, CNBC, disaster. The steam room, everybody talking about how the Dow's going to 10. It was just doom and gloom all over the place. And I know from experience, like, and I felt it was my duty. I had to remind everybody to focus on the stuff. For me, it's the signals I have confidence in. Okay, so
Right.
put it this way: in simple English, I know from my experience that when there's noise on CNBC and that noise is obvious, usually you take a contrarian view towards it, and the total
Right.
opposite plays out. Okay,
Right.
and
Right.
that's against the whole retail spectrum as a whole. Okay, so I know from my experience where if people are in the steam room and they're all looking to short and CNBC's talking about short, that I really need to be focused here and pay attention to my signals because the setup's there for a solid risk reward on the long side. You
Well,
understand?
and so again, let me pause you for a second there. Sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt so quickly, but so how long? I mean, pretty much what you're saying is that you had to learn to separate yourself from your environment, right? And be able to step back and be like, okay, what's happening right now? What's happening around me? What's the noise? How should I react to that separately? How long did it take you in your trading to be able to do that, to be able to create that separation so that you weren't just like seeing noise on CNBC and being like, buy, 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 sell, sell, sell. Like, how long did it take you to create that separation?
Yeah, see, this game, the beauty of this game is that you're going to make mistakes and they're going to cost you money. But if you learn from those mistakes, right? If you
Right,
avoid making the same mistakes over and over, you're eventually going to find success. You're going to see the improvement in this game. Okay.
right,
What
right,
happens is, and as crazy as it sounds, but we all know how it can be difficult. What happens to a lot of retail players in this game, it's like they stick their hand in the fire, they get burned, and what do? They put their hand back into the fire next week again. And then they'll
right,
do it a
right.
month from now. You understand? So for
Well,
me,
sometimes in the worst case scenario is they stick their hand in the fire, don't actually get burned. Make, buy
right,
some lotto, some options, some lotto options, the first trade, kill it, and then they're like, hey, I can stick my hand in the fire and not get burned, and then they spend the
right,
next
right,
3 years
right.
getting burned.
Or they say,
Yeah,
so for me, basically using that analogy, I saw enough people stick their hand in the fire and totally get lit up, okay,
right,
to know that I had to be different, okay. So it was obvious and at the same time not obvious. You hear the saying that goes around a lot. 99% of traders in this game don't make it, right?
right,
So, the obvious answer to that is you can't look at and do the same thing that every other trader you see on a day-to-day basis is looking at and do the same thing because 99% of them are failing. You know what I mean?
right,
So again, it hit me early and, the more I think about it, and like I said, we've had this conversation in the past. I think the gambling mentality throughout my whole life, just being a gambler, because the games are so similar. Um,
right, right,
it allowed me, it allowed me to understand and realize what I needed to change, what I needed to do to avoid getting wrapped up into that noise. So, like, I'll give you an example, like we were talking about on that Saturday webinar I was telling you. Um, if it means, let's say if you're in the steam room, we all like to talk, right? We all like to hang out, coagulate. I mean, what are you going to do? It's fun. But if you know you're getting wrapped up in the noise, if you know you're getting swayed in a particular direction or it's affecting you emotionally, these are the questions you have to ask yourself in this game, right? You have to ask these questions. If
right,
you see that the noise is affecting you emotionally, you have to figure out something to fix it. All right. And like for the example I gave in the room, we have the filter. Okay. That is just to focus on the flow, right? The signals and avoid what everybody else is doing. Okay.
right,
Shut
right,
CNBC off. Everybody's different. So there's not a blanket answer for everybody. But you have to ask yourself these questions and you have to realize that there are certain things you need to do to find success in this game. And if you don't do, you're going to spin your wheels. And it's as
right,
simple as, Charlie, listen, it's fun when we're all shorting together, rooting a stock down, Tesla, add a Q at the end. But, if you're in this game to make money, then, you got to be real. You got to be real with yourself. If you want to
right,
have fun, you have fun, then don't bitch and complain about losing money. But if you want to take a more serious approach and you're looking for success, you have to do the things you need to do. You have to ask yourself certain questions and you have to come up with those answers. Otherwise, it doesn't, and as you know, these things, they don't just work themselves out on their own, right?
right,
You
right.
have to put yourself in the right situation and correct your mistakes in this game. Otherwise, like I said, you're not going too far with any improvement.
Well, and so you just touched on a couple things that I want to hit on. One of them is you said you have to put yourself in the right situation, and I think one of the things that we see from newer traders coming into the room, or just to the educational system that we have in general, is that they put a ton of pressure on themselves right away,
Yeah.
and they come in and financially, especially financially, they are what they've read something, or they think for whatever reason that maybe they've thrown up like two $1,000 months, let's say, in the last couple of months, and they're like, I should be able to keep improving at this rate, and since I had I made a grand each in January and February, like I should be able to continue that. So they step away from another source of income or whatever, and they assume that's going to keep happening. So then they put themselves in this vice where they have pressure on themselves, where they have to take trades, and they don't give themselves the space to be able to make mistakes and mess around and try something here and try something there. And not saying being not being considerate or thoughtful about how they're placing trades and
No, I know what you're saying. I know
allocating their
exactly.
money, but like they've put themselves into a tight space. Like, is that something you see too? Did you ever fall into that trap? Like, how did you work yourself through that?
Yeah, and again, from experience, of course, everybody falls into that trap. And I'm like a really superstitious guy when it comes to this game. Sports too in general, but when it comes to the market, I'm superstitious. Like, I don't like to talk about numbers. You know what I mean? I don't like to talk about how much I own, because maybe it's just me, but every time I've done that in my career, it's always backfired in my face. The market gods, they're a fickle bunch. You don't want to fool around with them. Okay. So
Right.
as much as I would like to share,
Have some humility, right? Yeah.
yeah, and because it means nothing, Charlie. Here's the thing, right? If you come into this game, right, and you're looking for, again, something real. You're looking for longevity. You're looking for consistency. You're not here just to make that score. You want to
Right.
find something that works, that possibly allows you to do this for the rest of your life, enjoy yourself, and make some money at the same time. Okay, you know, you have to be real with yourself. It's not about one score. Like I could come out and say, oh, I made 100 grand on this stock. Yeah, get everybody all riled up. You know what I'm saying? And I know,
Right.
like, the next stock, most likely the next position I get involved in, I'm probably going to get annihilated. Okay. And that's just part of the game, winners and losers. But maybe it's a mental thing. But I know, the gods don't like, you don't step on their toes. And one position, one score really doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things, right? So the
Right.
first thing I know and I realized in this game, and I think it clears the room when you understand this, is that one position is really luck. Okay, the market goes up, you're likely going to make some money. The market, terrorist attack, the market goes down, you're going to lose money, right? It's bad luck.
Right.
Your goal should be, over the long run, net, you want to find an edge. You want to find some sort of game plan that allows you to win more than you lose. All
Right.
right. And so if you have that mentality and you have that outlook on things, the 20, 30 grand you just made on this option really doesn't mean much in the grand scheme of things. You know what I mean?
Right.
It really doesn't mean much. Yeah, you're happy for the now. Your wife, your girlfriend's going to spend half of it on nonsense. And then before you know it, you're
Buy
probably
another
going to
couple
have a couple.
dogs.
Yeah, yeah. And you're probably going to buy a couple dogs. Exactly. Before you know it, you're going to, just reality, you're going to give some of it back. And that's when you get, like you mentioned, start putting pressure on yourself. Like every single main position is going to be a winner like that, and you're relying on more winners than the market's really going to give you at any point in your career, and
Right.
that's when you start forcing things and getting into trouble.
Well, and so you're hitting on something inherently, like, and Lee just put into the chat. He said, so many excellent traders in the chat. The need to prove is strong, right? And like that touches on this concept of kind of letting your version of success be dictated by something outside of yourself, right? And I would imagine, and it's tough. It's tough with Twitter. It's tough with just general social pressure that we all deal with, especially when you see people posting P&Ls out there, and you're just like, I should have had that trade. FOMO. You constantly want to be. It's naturally human to want to be that person who's putting up those kind of similar numbers, and you're imagining yourself in the situation where, if my bank account had, those six figures in it, this would change for me. This would change for me, and blah blah blah. But I think one of the things that I've noticed from the guys who are really consistent in the room, yourself obviously foremost among them, is that your version of success to me, I'm not saying it's completely divorced from money. Obviously, you're sitting here, you're trading, you want to make money,
Mhm.
but you are not like you show for you, I feel like it's much more about just like showing up and doing what you know you need to do on a daily basis. Profits like take care of themselves outside of that,
Yeah,
right?
and
And you and
that's
you aren't
exactly it.
and you aren't grasping. You want to make money clearly, but you don't seem that like mentally attached to making money, right? Like money is not, you haven't placed that much, so much weight on it, so much importance on it that it's like, pressing down on you all the time when you trade. Would you say that that's accurate?
Yeah, yeah, and it's easy for me to say that in my position. I've been in the game a long time. You know what I mean? So, it's hard to compare somebody who is only in the game a couple of years to what I'm doing now, 20 years deep. Um,
Right.
but you have to get to that point. You see, and it never affected me. Like, don't get me wrong, I was a broker, young, rock star, the whole 9 yards. You look at the fancy cars, you want to spend the money, you want to be that. But, I've always, I wouldn't say always, but once I matured enough to realize that you can show me how much money, Charlie, you have in your bank account till I turn purple in the face. You can show me your P&L all you want. That doesn't mean jack shit for me. You know what I
Right.
mean? What
Right.
what besides motivate me, and that's okay, what does that do for me? Why should I allow it to change anything I'm doing? No matter what I do, okay, you could be showing like you made $1 million over the last 3 months trading, right? If I'm trading a $5,000 account, like, how can I let that affect what I'm doing realistically? I'm not getting to that point right now.
Right.
So instead,
Right.
maybe focus on the bigger picture, um, and work on the things like you said. There's something about this game, again, just like sports, and that's why I love the game so much. You see in baseball, right? What do ball players do? Okay, they know how to swing a bat, they know how to hit a ball, right? But every day, what do? They go in the cage and they take their swings, right? Every
Right.
day they take their cuts, right?
Right.
Why? Because they want to work on it. They just want that swing to become a habit, right? They just
Right.
want the mechanics to be a habit, so they don't have to think too much. There's not any
Right.
emotion. There's not as much emotion getting wrapped up if they're down 0-2 in the count, because they know what they got to do. And
Right.
that's what this game is all about, whether you want it or not. You're going to start small when you come into this game, and if you think you're something special and you're going to take that $5,000 account to $500,000, because you're looking at other people's P&L, you like we see, you're going to be in for a rude awakening. So
Right.
these are the things I think before you start pushing buttons, and I know you would agree with me. You have to be real with yourself, and you have to ask yourself these questions before you start taking a serious approach in this game.
Right.
You
Right.
have to. And one of the most important questions I tell a lot of Steamroom members: what the hell are you? Like, what's your intentions here? You hear somebody, I want to be an active trader. I want to day trade, and then in the same breath, they're telling you they have another job and they're not in front of the screen all day.
Right.
You can't be that. Okay, no
Right.
matter how hard you try, you can't be that. Okay, you're starting behind the 8 ball. So for you to find success in this game, you got to figure out on a part-time basis what type of trading style will allow me to find success. Okay, I
Right.
can't be a
Yeah.
day trader. Maybe, not maybe, but most likely I'm going to have to be a lot more selective. I'm going to have to swing trade. You know what I mean? I'm going to have to allow setups. I'm going to have to be patient on the setup side. So, like I said, these are things you have to ask yourself. And like you and I have discussed in the past, I think what it is a lot of people that start off in this game, they're afraid to ask themselves these questions. They don't
Yeah.
want the real answers. They don't want the truth.
Right.
They don't
But
want
then,
the truth.
but it's like anything. It's like being an athlete. It's like being an entrepreneur. Trading is no different when it comes to performance. One of the things that you realize when you aren't asking yourself these questions, is that it just sucks. You just keep running into the same walls over and over and over. And at a
Right.
certain point, everybody hits that point where the fatigue that you have of hitting the same walls over and over,
Exactly.
it becomes more painful than the avoidance instinct
Yep.
that you have to be like, I don't want to think about this shit. And I don't want to look at this stuff. And
Yep.
everybody has that point. For some people, it takes them a week and they're just like, they're pretty
Right.
quick with it. Some people, it's years, but you will hit that point at some point. And then when you cross that threshold and you realize that when you start asking yourself a lot of these questions and really sort of stepping back and trying to take an objective assessment of, why you're here, why are you sitting down, what's the story you're telling yourself about why you're doing what you're doing, then you start to see results start to
Yep.
pile up. And for trading, I think you will probably agree with this. Like, it's not always about the P&L. I feel like for a lot of the guys that we see, guys and women, I shouldn't say, I'm saying guys, just with no gender attached to it. The better traders in the room, for them, it's a lot of times about the process. It's just like, I showed up, I know what I needed to do today, and I fucking did it. And whether I lost money or I made money, they get so much satisfaction from being able to execute at a high level and being able to hold themselves to that standard. That's where they get a lot of the pleasure from the experience. And then they're just constantly in a cycle like that over and over and over, where they're focusing on that
Yeah. It
process and
becomes a
getting better
habit.
at that.
It becomes, yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah. And then you're like that baseball player who's just like taking cuts over and over and like tweaking their swing, the slightest bit, and that gives them the ability to whatever,
Exactly. Or
pull it.
golf, right? It's all the same. Like golf, the same thing. How do you get better? You got to just take more swings, right? You got to just work on that swing where you're not. And he's like, golf, I'm the worst, by the way, when it comes to golf. So I know this. Like, and anytime I'm out there playing and I'm awful, people say, you're just thinking too much. You're putting too much thought. What am I? Am I moving my hips too quick? Am I doing? You got to
Right.
work on it to the point where you're not thinking about it. You're not thinking and you're just doing what you need to do.
Right.
And that's a lot of things in life. But you hit the nail on the head that I want to repeat for everybody out there, because I can promise them this. Okay, they all want the unicorns and the fantasy stories and all that to become real and truth. But the truth of the matter is what you just hit on. Everybody out there, it's different for each and every trader out there, but they come to basically, like you said, crossroads. They come to a point where they get frustrated, right? They get depressed, they get agitated, and they're faced with that question that they have to ask themselves and find the solution. They know it's there. Okay.
Right.
If you brush it away, ignore it, and just go back and continue to do what you're doing, yeah, maybe you made some money on that next trade and you forgot about it all of a sudden again. It's going to show up and bite you in the ass. And like you said, the longer it does that, that's when people get so disgusted. You know what I mean? Like they get
Right.
so disgusted with this game
Disgusted.
that they have to walk away. Oh, I got to get away. There's another point just quickly. I'll give you an example. Last year, okay, and as you know, everybody knows out there, I don't short, okay? In my opinion, anybody who's new to the game shouldn't short. Figure out one thing at a time. Shorting is extremely difficult. Why put more on your plate, right?
Right.
One thing at a time.
Give yourself space. Give yourself that space to
Yeah.
learn. Is what you're saying.
So,
Yeah.
and it goes to show you, I'm in this game a long, long time, and I've come to the conclusion, and here's another example of what we're talking about, Charlie. I had to face reality and say, listen, shorting is not part of my repertoire. I can't allow it
Right.
because it was a losing proposition to me. It not only dollar and cents, it would get me into bad habits. Okay. It would
Right.
get me into bad habits emotionally. So I couldn't allow that. So,
Right.
people are like, oh, the market's down, a month straight. Jesus, you're not shorting? I could short and what? Make a couple grand here on the short side. The thought of me getting wrapped up into shorting and emotionally what that can create in my
Right.
game, it's not
Right.
worth it. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's not
Right.
worth it for that one
Because
little score I can make on the short side.
you're not like, I'm not to put you too much on a pedestal, but you're not going out, you're not waking up every day and going to your office and sitting in front of your screens trying to fulfill some version of what trading success looks like that you've, built out of what people have told you to be or whatever, right? You are
Right.
doing it. You are fulfilling what you know works for you, right? You have built your own version of that. You can visualize what success looks like for you, and it's totally different than it is for almost everybody else. Like, for a lot of guys a lot of people who are in the room, trading success looks like for them, like not being stressed and going into, having enough money in the bank. They're only putting, a certain amount of their account at risk, and at any given time, they're able to just not be so fucking stressed out, and
Yeah.
easy drive to work at a, or wake up in their home office. Like, for some people it's that. For some people it's like Lucci, it's being in Puerto Rico and putting on huge size, and doing his approach. But nobody has ever made it work for them that I've seen over a long-term period by mimicking some version of what supposedly works for other people, right? Because a lot of times it will work for
Exactly.
somebody else, but it won't for themselves. And this is true not just in trading, but in every performance-oriented aspect of life. And
You know why
yeah,
that is? It's simple. We're all wired differently. Okay. I can never, ever, ever do what Lucci does. I can never do that. You know what I mean?
right,
I can never,
right,
I would be, so stressed out and so wrung out. Like I can't even, I tell him this every day. He cracks up. You know what I mean? I can never do it. But,
right,
whether he's done it from the get-go, he's learned to find success doing it, that's his thing. You know what I mean? That's his
right,
thing. Now, that doesn't mean everybody, each and every player out there is different, that you can't learn something from them. You know what I
right,
mean? But
right,
again, you have to look at yourself and what drives you emotionally, what drives you psychologically, and figure out what suits you best. That's what you got to come to. And again, it's asking yourself um, the real questions you have to ask yourself. But on your point, and I see this a lot. I see a lot of traders, especially in the steam room, who will come in, okay, and I don't know why this is, but and I see people talking about it. Lee was mentioning it, MJ was mentioning it. It's like they have to prove
yeah,
that they know their shit, okay? And I know, and all the people will probably giggle as I say this. I know immediately when I see comments like that, when I see somebody coming in like that, they're done.
right.
They're not going to be
Looking
here.
for that.
Yeah,
They're
they're
looking
not,
for
they're
that
not even,
approval.
they won't even be here a month from now. Like,
Right,
example, no names or whatever. I don't even remember their name, but, somebody came in, to the room. And this is at the time where this rally just started, this recent rally. Okay.
right,
Call
right,
sweepers out to wazoo, nothing but bullish signals all over the place exactly what we're looking for. When they come
right.
in, they start talking market mumbo jumbo, sound intelligent. I'm going short.
Terminology
We're
here and
Yeah.
there. Right.
I see
Yeah.
some imbalance. I see some buyers out of Chicago coming in here, scooping up shit. I don't know what the hell they were talking about. My
Right.
oscillators, my escalators, and you know, if that guy was legit, if that dude was legit, he wouldn't have taken that approach anyway. You know what I'm saying? If that dude
Right.
was legit and really saw those things, he wouldn't have to come in his second, third day in the steam room and
Right.
start flashing that stuff. Like, he wanted to make known like he's something special. Like, I know this game. Look at me, guys. Okay. And
Right.
meanwhile, I think be honest with yourself. And I tell everybody this: if you're in the steam room, if you sign up to a membership to the steam room or private Twitter, okay, and you're new to the game, you're looking for something new. You got to keep an open mind, okay, but you
Right.
got to be realistic, and you got to legitimately put the time and effort into it. Give it a chance, okay? You sign up to the steam room, you're here for sweeper activity and sentiment stuff, right? Sentiment signals. If you're not paying attention to that stuff, what the hell are you doing? Like, why are you there? Put the money
Right.
back in your pocket. Take your girl out for dinner. Why are you pissing away your money? To
Right.
talk to MJ on a day-to-day basis for 30 days?
Nothing
I
wrong with
can.
them.
No, but you know what I
We all
mean.
love them.
Yeah, but
Right.
there's cheaper
Right.
routes in doing that. I don't understand the logic in that. It's just so
Right.
many people getting, and that's the noise, getting wrapped up into proving themselves instead of being honest. And that's one thing, Charlie. I'm humble about it. I told myself early on in this game, okay, you don't know shit. Okay,
Right.
I looked myself in the mirror and I said, listen, you're
Right.
a complete moron when it comes to this stuff. Okay.
Right.
There's a
Right.
lot more intelligent people out there than you. There's a lot more money out there than you. Okay. You have no edge in trying to outsmart anybody out there.
Right.
Okay. So
And dude,
once I
let me
told
tell you,
myself that, what'd you say?
yeah, I was going to say, I mean, we have worked over the course of, the last 7 or 8 years. I mean, we have worked with some people who have some insane IQs in this industry, right? And people
Right.
who are Harvard educated and, PhDs, quantum physics, all sorts of just, all of the credentials that you would look at and you'd say, this dude's got an IQ of 150.
Yeah.
And I will say,
They don't have two nickels to
almost
rub together.
across the board, yeah, they just get their ass beat. I'm sorry, but and it's so the common denominator for even for from anybody who's successful trading in what I've observed and what I've witnessed, whether guys who are trading small accounts and just doing it consistently, or yeah, some of these guys in New York and Chicago who are throwing around 8, 9 figures consistently.
Right.
It's just humility, man. These guys are not showing up and swaggering in. Like anytime you start to get that swagger, it's just a matter of time before that's what's so amazing about the market. It's like this
Yeah.
incredible humility correction mechanism that just is like waiting to backhand people at any given time. And if you
It's
get into that
amazing,
head,
right? It's
it's a
amazing.
matter of
And you're telling me there's no such thing as market gods out there? You're telling me that this
right,
just happens on its own? It's a coincidence?
right,
Well, that's
right.
what I'm talking about. Whatever it
Yeah,
is, I believe in the market gods. All right, that's my prerogative. But you're exactly right. You know what I mean?
right,
You're exactly
right.
right. As soon as
Yeah,
you step, over that line and you think who you are, you're gonna get it. You're gonna catch a nice beating. Okay.
yep,
And the beauty about it is, when you're new to this game, you may think that beating really hurts. You know what I mean? You may think it's a
right.
big setback. In reality, it's not, Charles, because it's
Yeah,
such a small amount, right? When you're just starting off, it hurts. You feel hopeless. But those are the things, that's why I tell everybody, when you're new, these are the things you got to look
good.
forward
It's
to.
good. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's
good.
really,
It's good to take the beating. Yeah,
oh,
the,
the
it's the
sting
same.
is when
Yeah,
you have it to lose, right?
yeah,
And
yep,
you shouldn't be doing it, and you
yeah,
take that $1 million hit, $500,000 hit off it. You know what I mean? Those are the
right.
things that will affect you.
I mean,
Um,
this is the thing, and this is true in life is as well as trading. It's
yeah,
like the things that you think will kill you, um, really won't. The things that
yeah,
the things that keep you up at night that you're afraid of, when you actually experience them, either by accident or by just walking into the fire, you
yeah,
realize this shit actually is not nearly as bad as what I built it up to be. Like
yeah,
anticipation is always way worse than what it actually is.
yeah.
But
And
then
it's
once you
all,
actually experience it, you like shed another
oh
layer,
yeah,
right? And you got to
yep.
keep doing it again over and over, but like you free yourself from a lot of that bullshit.
Yeah, and I mean, that would be my one of my top pieces of advice for anybody who's new out there is that any mistakes that you make, any frustration that you have, as long as you work on correcting it, as long as you're looking for the solution, you're every legitimate trader out there, every established trader, they all look back on this stuff. They're no different. They look back and laugh at this stuff. You know what I mean? So you
Right.
should never let it really get to you if you're starting out. You should expect hiccups. You should expect frustration. But like you said, you got to learn to correct the mistakes and just work on finding the solution and not doing it again. And that's how you improve in this game. And that's how you improve. And it's so important.
Right, right, right. Yeah, I mean, this is the kind of stuff we could talk about for hours. We got some questions in here, and guys, we'll go into a little bit of Q&A section right here. So if you have questions for Jesus about everything we've been talking about, or we didn't really hit as much on the tactical side of things, I want to ask you a question about that, Jesus, before we flip into the Q&A. I will give a quick plug here for the master course. So we've been talking about developing a process. We've been talking about developing the skill sets that give you the confidence to know that, as long as you show up and execute, that, the P&L is going to take care of itself. And that's basically what the Steamroom and the St. Lucci Master Course are all about. So let me share my screen here real quick. The next master course that is taught by Lucci is starting March 25th. So if you guys go to stlucci.com/MC, you can see all about the master course and what we teach you there. Basically tape reading, flow trading, options trading, and most importantly, what we were talking about today, trading psychology. So we've been doing this for a lot of years now. Lucci is an incredible teacher. He brings perspective
And he's
and
diehard psychology, right? He's
yeah, he's a freak.
diehard psychology. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a total freak when it comes to that stuff. As am I, because that's at the end of the day. Once you learn those skill sets, once you learn how to read the tape, once you understand flow and sentiment and how to really get a read on this, and it's all about you being able to combine it together into a strategy that makes sense for yourself, right? And so we're not sitting here saying we're going to give you a cookie cutter strategy and go out and do it. We're going to teach you how the markets work. We're going to teach you really what it takes in order to be successful with this, and then it's up to you to go do it. So you can check out, usually we have 12 live sessions, evening sessions. We're actually adding a 13th. I convinced Lucci, much to his chagrin, to add a 13th class. So it's going to be all about hedging, right? This is one of the things that he has really taken it up a notch with his game in the last I would say 6 months, and you can see on his P&L, his losses have just almost gone to like, not, they've just shrunk so much, while his gains have stayed big. So I said, let's really focus in on that and teach that in the 13th class. So we're adding a 13th class, which is awesome. We also, and Jesus, I don't know if I've talked to you about this yet, but anyone who's in the room knows the name Ranchero. He is a badass of a trader, a fucking great guy. And he is going to be teaching a little additional course this time around. So yeah, it's going to be awesome. He's going to be basically talking about, he's a product of the Steamroom, he's a product of the master course, and he's also had his own trading experience, and he's going to be doing a 3-part, so it's an hour and a half each class, 3 classes. We're going to put it on at the end of after Lucci's evening classes. And for him, it's about, I'll put it in his words, it's a long-term conservative option strategy for the purpose of collecting premium while protecting positions from short-term volatility. While long-term position capital appreciation is the goal, short-term swing and day trading around the long is typically quite rewarding. This activity pays for your longs and zombie apocalypse puts. So I'm psyched, man. I'm psyched.
I know Ranchero well. Obviously, we talk every day.
Right.
He's got his own, honestly, I don't know of anybody else who really does what he does. He's a big fan of writing premium, taking his risk down around a core position. Really interesting. We had him on for one webinar. He talked a little bit about it, but that's something obviously you need to get a little more in depth on to really understand it. But if you're interested in writing as an option strategy or looking to implement that into your strategy, he's a great source for that.
Yeah. Yes, well, I'm excited, man. It's going to be good. I think this is the beginning. In the next couple weeks, I'm going to be coming on, and Lucci's going to be coming on too with some of the guys from the Steamroom to talk about basically the same stuff that we're talking about now, Jesus. So because there's a lot of different perspectives, and everybody kind of comes at this from a different approach, and that's what we're trying to do is kind of bring that all out in the open for everybody to see and digest, and hopefully it helps you guys all piece together what makes sense for you. So anyways, real quick, going back to the master course, next one starts March 25th. We're doing these less frequently now. So if you guys want to get involved, you can shoot me an email, charlie@sayinglucci.com. We do offer a discount for the first 10 people. We haven't started offering that publicly yet, but if you guys want to inquire about it, shoot me an email, charlie@sayinglucci.com, and we can talk about it. And all right, enough of the sales stuff. Let me go back to.
I can't believe it's March already, for crying out loud. It's gonna be summertime before you know it again.
I know. No better time to get your shit together and get in that master course. So, all right. So let's take. All right. So I want to ask you real quick, Jesus, before we go into the questions. So, and this is the kind of thing you've probably talked about a million times before, but for the people who are newer, when you're in a day where for whatever reason, maybe it's like personal life stuff, there's just a ton going on, or there's a ton of activity going on in the markets, it's just noise, right? Your mental environment is noisy. What is like your method for stepping out of that and quieting yourself? Like, are you looking at just straight up just looking at the flow? Is that how you kind of simplify it all to make it actionable?
The best way to explain it, and we talk about this on the Saturday webinar as well a lot. The sweeper activity for me, the flow for me is my seatbelt. Okay, so I'll give you an example. I day trade equity, okay, and I swing trade selectively as well. Okay, so I'll talk swing trading now because that's what most people do. The majority of people do. For swing trading, for me, okay, if I'm not seeing the type of quality activity, I'll give you an example. Today, okay, I'm a big fan of buying into weakness. Like today, we had another day of weakness. That's where I do my best. Okay, when there's quality action into weakness, that's where a lot of my wins come from on the swing side.
Right.
So as much as I would like to have bought something today, okay, there was nothing coming out of the flow that impressed me enough for me to purchase, put on a new swing position. All right.
Right.
So for me, it's just simple. I'm not going to go out. And again, this is going back to looking yourself in the mirror and telling you, Jesus, just be honest with yourself. You're useless, that type of thing. But I'm not going to go out and be like, oh, you know what? If Facebook looks good here off a moving average, tomorrow might be a gap up day off the job number. I'm going to roll the dice. Again, I'm not going to do that. The reason I'm not going to do it, I can make money doing that, right? I get lucky, job numbers tomorrow, market goes up. I have a profitable Facebook trade. But the thought of me getting in the habit of starting to handicap my own stuff, I know where that's going to put me. Okay. So again, it's not worth that one profitable trade. So for me, the flow is my seatbelt.
When you say to handicap your own stuff, what do you mean?
Meaning that exactly what I just said. I'm not going to say, well, there was no quality action today. There was nothing that impressed me enough to put a new position on. So I'm going to go outside the box here and just buy some stock because I want the action or something. You know what I mean?
Just, I want to click some buttons. Right.
Yeah, I mean, so it's, again, facing reality. For me, I know the only way I'm going to find success in this game is if I stick to the stuff that I've been successful doing. Okay.
Right.
So I had no urge. Like a lot of people ask me the same thing with earnings. What? You don't play earnings? You never play earnings? Play earnings this one time. It's not worth it. Why though? Why? Again, it's not even, oh, I'm going to lose 10, 15 grand on an earnings play. That's, I'm not going to be on the corner with a cup. I mean, it's not going to affect me. And at the same time, even if I, make 10, 20 grand, what's going to, like you said, my dogs take that in a month. You know what I mean? On dog food. So it's irrelevant to me. The thought of getting out of my realm, right? And considering how hard I work to form these good habits, rolling the dice and falling off the wagon, so to speak, it's not worth it to me. So it's that simple. For me, the sweeper activity is my seatbelt. Okay. If they tattooed something into the weakness today, oh, for shit, sure, I'm buying it. There's not even a question in my mind. Oh, the market might go down to, I don't give that, plays zero part into my philosophy. Okay.
You found what works. Yeah. You found what works for you. You found what works for you. You stick within that. And it's not to say that you don't take risks. But and especially like that's your personality type too. Like I feel like you're consistent, and you're just about like, hey, fucking kind of, you reference baseball a lot, right? Baseball is a marathon sport. It's 162 games. It's showing up every single day and kind of like a grind. And I feel like you have that mentality, and that works for you. That's one of the reasons why you keep on doing it. You stay within, your own strike zone without limiting yourself to being, handicapped to doing something that doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, and then again, it's those questions. It's just those questions. I know, again, you have a lot of people that come in the Steamroom on Twitter that like to show off how much they know. That's not even a thought in my head. I'm not embarrassed to tell anybody out there that, and I know just as much as anybody else out there. I've been looking at the markets every day for 20 years, but I'm being honest with you guys and telling you that none of that is going to help me make money in this market. So what I have the confidence in, what I have found success in, and when I started asking myself the questions, what do I need to do to find consistency in this game? So Once I got the answers to those questions, now my job, it was simple, Charlie. Just do those things
Yeah.
each and every day.
Right.
That's it. There was
Yep.
nothing else I had to think about outside of that. You know what I mean? Fine,
Yeah.
little tweaks here and there. That's fine. But I'm saying, as far as a general game plan and the philosophy, once I realized the answers to those questions of what I needed to do to find success, my job was just to implement them and work on implementing them every day. That's it.
And you can't do that if you're always chasing somebody else's version of what
It's
what
impossible. It's
you
impossible.
yeah, you literally
Yeah.
can't enter
I
into
tell
that.
people in the room all day long that, they'll be talking about this. They'll be talking about Kim Kardashian. They're talking about Donald Trump, or they're talking about shorting some stock just because things are going lower. Forget about all that stuff, because it's blinding you to possibly the important stuff that may be coming your way. You understand? And
Right.
that's what, again, going back to late last year, was a perfect example. The market being down every day got people discouraged, got people so negative, and I felt like it was my job, for at least the Steam Room members, to keep them awake. Don't walk away. Don't take some time off. Sit
Right.
in cash, wait, because when the turn comes, that's where you're going to make the money. As
Yeah.
long as it takes, sit there, be patient, and when your signals show up, that's when you got to be ready to fire.
Right.
And if you're worrying about what this guy's doing and what she's doing and how much money they made, what kind of car they drive, you know what I mean?
Right.
Pictures with Kim Kardashian, whatever it may be, you're
Right.
not, it's impossible to focus
Yeah.
on the important stuff. Impossible.
Yes. Well said. Well said. All right, let's get some Q&A here. We've been going on for a little bit. Garrett says, how many people struggle with depression after getting started trading? I mean, a lot, a lot. And I feel like a lot of this comes from when you, one of the reasons why people get depressed is because they're comparing themselves to, this sort of ghost version of themselves, of where they feel like they should be, or where they could be. And trading is so fucking brutal with that, because there's always somebody out there, throwing up a P&L, and half these people are just full of shit. They're just lying. But it's so easy to compare yourself to this fantasy version of where you should be, and that's brutal, man. When you find yourself in that comparison state, that's where a lot of that comes from. So yeah, certainly. Andrew wants to know, what do you do when you're trigger shy due to losses? How do you work yourself out of that headspace?
Yeah, that's a good point, because that's something you're going to need to work on. And then, like I said, once it's getting to the point where you have confidence. So that's why I tell a lot of you guys, okay, and what Charlie hit on earlier, forget about how much money you can make. Everybody puts on a trade and they're on the calculator trying to figure out how much they're going to make if it pans out. Okay.
And then they annualize that, and then
Right,
just
right,
think
right,
about
right, right.
all the shit that would
Yeah,
go well in my life, all the people that would respect me
that's
if I had
taking it
some.
way too far. But I'm even talking about, forget about what you're going to make off the trade. What you got to look at when you're ready to put on the trade is what you're looking to risk, okay? And your risk shouldn't have you stressed out. The problem is when you're focusing on how much you want to make, okay, you're obviously going to take on more risk than you should, okay, because you're looking at those big numbers, you want more money and so forth. And when you're paying attention to the risk, you'll start realizing, you'll start taking the proper size, and you won't worry necessarily about a string of losses, okay? And it comes to confidence. Once you have the confidence in whatever philosophy, whatever strategy, whatever system you're utilizing, that's what it comes down to. That's how you get through losing streaks, okay? Because if I know, for example, I run into 2-3 losers over the course of the next couple of days, okay, I know from my experience, I know from the confidence in my philosophy, that I'm going to rattle off probably 4 or 5 winners, a week or two out, okay?
Right.
So I'm not concerning myself with the 3 losers. See, and that's the outlook I'm trying to stress here, is that the winners or the losers, they mean nothing. The couple of winners or losers mean nothing. They don't tell you
It's just
anything.
information. It's just
Yeah.
information.
You have a lot of
data.
traders out there that are trading 3 months in a bull market and they're like, oh, I got it. I'm finally profitable. You're not even close, my friend. You're trading long in a bull market. Wait when the markets get a little choppy or pull back off a bit. Then you'll see, those true numbers show. You know what I mean?
And you can't get to that point that you're talking about being at where you know what works for you if you don't give yourself space to begin with, to have some trial and error, to have some
Yeah,
experimentation,
and
to
it's simple
try
math,
things and
guys.
fail.
It's simple
Yeah,
math, okay? It's as simple as this. If you have, let's say, I'm keeping it simple here, and just to show you, a risk reward of even money, okay? So in other words, you're putting 5 grand, let's say, in an option or a trade, whatever the case, you're going to either lose 5 grand, you're going to win 5 grand, okay? If you run into two losers, okay, you're going to be down money right now, but over a string of 20 plays, okay, if you hit 14 of them, right, you are
right,
profitable. And that's the real number. You understand?
right,
That's the real number. I remember like MJ, not to blow her up, but she took her account from like 2 grand, Charlie, to like 40 grand or 30 grand, something ridiculous like that in a short amount of
right,
time. And,
right.
when it got to that high level, she kept using that number as the number she was down from. And I'm trying to
Mm,
tell her, you keep saying your 30 grand's down to 15 grand. That's not the real number. Is your 2 grand is worth 15 grand. And think
right, right,
about that percentage
right.
gain.
Think about that
Okay.
percentage gain. Yeah, seriously.
You
Yeah.
just got
Well,
hot, right? You got hot, and more of your winners came early on. And that's why that number you were staring at was 30 grand. That wasn't a real number unless you
and
took your money out of the account and left the casino. That's not a real number.
well, but also like think about so much of the value derived from that account going up and down is the experience of learning what worked and what didn't, what mistakes you made, what you didn't, so that the next time around you're not doing the same thing again. And yeah, you might get back up to that 30 level and stay
Exactly.
there, right?
Exactly.
So, but if
And
you're
that's what
so if you're
happens.
just
It's
kicking the
like,
shit out of yourself, for losing that money the whole time, you completely block out what you can learn from that.
exactly, exactly. And that's just like now, for example, using this current market, okay? And we were talking about up, near the highs, the market was going sideways. We had an incredible rally here, okay? No matter how much money you made, you may be satisfied with the profits, you may not be as satisfied. It's irrelevant. What you're looking to do now, okay, your job as a trader was to hold on to a chunk of the profits you made on the way up, okay? So you give back some, let's say you made 10 grand off the rally, again, using just round numbers, you give back 4 of it off a pullback like we have now, you made 6 grand off this rally and you're waiting for another setup,
Right,
And like you said, it's like a trend, like a chart that trends, right? It doesn't go straight up, goes up,
right,
it comes down, it goes up. But over the long run, what happens? That's the true number. So
right,
again, traders just don't like to take that approach, And it's as
right,
simple as that. Like a lot of option players out there, okay? And again, I'm just using even numbers. If you, let's say, whatever signals you're looking at, sweeper activity, sentiment, your charts, whatever the case may be, do you have confidence right now out of 100 stocks, if you played them all for the same amount of money, right? And even money risk reward, which you guys know, that's the beauty of the market. There's higher risk rewards out there, right? Where
right.
it allows you to hit for a lower percentage. Can you be profitable? That's what it comes down to, you know? And once you have a yes next to that question, once you have the confidence that you can say yes to that question, sizing up comes easy. I feel like,
Right,
you know what I mean? You'll
right.
find a way to get your hands on money, right?
Yeah.
You'll hit up your mother, your uncle, your brother. You'll do whatever you can once you have the confidence to size up. But what
Right,
you need to focus on is, not blowing yourself up and
right.
staying the course. And that's it. That's the most important thing.
This is a great. This should probably be the last question we take. But this is a great question from Ani. I'm not even going to try and pronounce your last name because I totally butcher it. But Ani, hope I'm pronouncing your first name right. Jesus,
Oh,
how did you get over instinctive mistakes? How do you slow down the process of taking a trade? Please talk through it. So instinctive mistakes.
instinctive mistakes, that's something, again, I don't really, and maybe he's asking that because I complain a lot. I sell something too early, I complain. I don't pull the trigger, I complain. But that's all part of the game. You know what I mean? You can't let things like that get to you. Because again,
Right.
if you take a step back and look at the big picture, there's a lot of market out there. There's a lot of stocks out there. You know what I mean? You may miss
Right.
an opportunity today. There's going to be a ton of opportunities over the next couple of months. So
So kind of what you're saying is the answer is it's not that you stopped making instinctive mistakes, it's that you stopped caring nearly as much when you made those mistakes.
yeah, of course you could. No matter what, in anything you do, there's going to be some instinctive mistakes in everything you do in life. You know what I mean?
Right.
So you just can't let it discourage you. And I give the wrong impression because I complain about that stuff a lot. I just like to complain about it. But you
Right.
can't let stuff like that affect you in this game. You gotta stay the course. And as long as you're realizing you did something wrong and try to improve on it, right? Try not to repeat the same mistakes over and over. Again, the improvement alone, you're going to see that in your P&L.
Right. Well said. All right. Well, I think that that's probably a pretty good note to wrap up on. The Sorry, getting a couple more questions in here, but I think that this is just the beginning of these conversations that we're going to continue with. We're going to be keep your eyes on Twitter, on Instagram, on your email. We have a series coming up that we're going to be rolling out next week and the following week. Bringing on a bunch of guys from the Steamroom, Lucci, Maeve, and drag Jesus back on here again for another one, but really kind of digging into the intersection of the psychology outside of the markets, how you're viewing yourself, how you're viewing, your version of success, whatever that is, and how that is intertwined with your actual performance in the markets, the more tactical side of things of how you're trading. So keep your eyes open
And
for
let me
that.
just leave one thing, Charlie. I mean, for all you guys out there, talking about this stuff and implementing this stuff is two very drastic things. Like you can, and Charlie, we were talking about this before we started the webinar. You can talk about this stuff till you turn purple in the face. Like, you know what I mean? This is a
Yeah.
broad topic because everybody's so different. You have to take action and start implementing stuff. You know what I mean? You have to start asking yourself the right questions and realizing what you need to correct and what you need to do different. And you have to take action on that. The longer you
Yep.
push it on the side, the longer you procrastinate, you can't blame anybody else for your frustration, your depression, you lose it. It's all on you. It's all on you. So, talking about it and taking action is two different things. You have to at least start taking action on this stuff for you to find success. Otherwise, it's useless.
And that's part of what we're going to be talking about with all these guys that we're going to be interviewing is like what did it, not just conceptually, let's talk about these things, but practically, what does it look like when you started taking action? What did you start doing differently? How did you get yourself to start taking action?
Yeah.
So it's not, what they say is not necessarily going to work for everybody, but I think it, everyone will be able to pull something
Exactly.
out of
Just
it.
raise light bulbs,
Yeah.
right? Light bulbs go
Right.
off. The more you talk
Right.
about the stuff, light bulbs go off.
Right.
And going back to the question, just gets you asking yourself the right questions. And that's
Right.
where it starts, man. That's where it starts.
Right. Yeah, and that's I think that's it, guys. Again, this is all kind of as a lead up to the next live Sang Lucci Master course starts March 25th. Like we said, the 13th class added to it just about hedging. We have Ranchero teaching his additional course, the usual 4 live tape reading sessions with Lucci. You get access to Wise Guys Revealed with Jesus. It's just a ridiculous deal. So if you guys are interested in that, hit me up, charlie@sanglucci.com. And with that, we'll call it for the day. Hope you guys have a great Friday heading up tomorrow. So
Yep.
we'll
Thanks for
talk
stopping
soon.
by, everybody. I'll see you
Thanks,
two
guys.
tomorrow in there anyway. Be good. Charlie, be good.
See you, man.